I'm tempted to say that's the end of the talk. You got what you needed to. Oh well, next time. One thing I want to mention is people ask me different questions, and that's good. But you should know that the questions are way more important than the answers. Answers come and go, but questions will serve you well. They will keep you seeking. Right? You have to keep questioning and looking, and that is an aspect of beginner's mind, is you don't take things for granted. You question everything. Why are you here? What are you doing? What is this practice? Does it work? What did he say? Who's that? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why now? There's different types of questions. There are questions that come from resistance, and there are questions that come from beginner's mind. Okay? From really trying to understand deeply and open and question all your assumptions to let go of ideas. And then there's questions that come from a sense of challenge, like, I know better. Okay? So it's not really a question. The question implies the answer. Right? So determine which kind of question. And usually questions based on beginner's mind, they motivate your practice to keep looking more deeply, right? Questions based on sort of sense of self, of the knowing mind, the expert's mind, okay, is more a sense of, I know better. Okay, meaning one of them you have the answer, and one of them you don't. Okay? If you're asking a question but you have the answer, that's expert. That's the expert asking a question. If you're asking a question and anything's possible, you really don't know. You really don't know everything. Most fundamental beliefs you hold. That's beginner's mind. It doesn't, make you unstable. It actually puts your feet more firmly on the ground because you're not relying on anything except being here. Right? Being here. Except your feet on the ground, your breath in your chest. Okay? That's what you can rely on. It makes you return to the fundamental truth of your aliveness. And those questions, that beginner's mind question, will bring you back to that basic reality. So, ask those questions. The other questions, ask yourself. Ask yourself, is this beginner's mind question or expert's mind question? Okay? Am I resisting because of, it's a challenge to my ego? Or am I opening because I really want to get to the bottom of this? Really understand what it means to be alive. So ask questions. That sense of intention, where's the question coming from? Knowing or not knowing? Okay? Is the question coming from knowing or not knowing? Is it beginner's mind or expert's mind? It's also, some people have asked me about picking and choosing. Isn't everything sort of, when I'm saying I'm not going to follow a certain thought, or if I'm not going to ask that question, then isn't that also picking and choosing? Like, well, maybe I should ask that question, because if I don't ask it, then I'm saying it, I'm judging it. So isn't that part of the picking and choosing mind that limits me? It's like the question, what is the intention behind that choice? Behind your question? Okay? What is the intention behind the picking and choosing? If it's related to your sense of self, what I like and what I dislike, it's picking and choosing. Okay, it's reinforcing the choices coming out of what's good for me, what's not good for me. If you're making a decision based on, okay, I'm not going to follow this thought. Why? Because I want to maintain my vows or my commitment to be less self-cherishing, increase happiness, and decrease suffering. Okay, that's the background of the choices we make. And then it's no longer picking and choosing, it's aspiration. Aspiration is having a direction in your practice. Yes, you need a direction, and that means you make choices. Those choices are based on what? They're based on your really big mind intentions. Okay? The great vows, we call them. Avoid harm, do good, purify your mind. If your choices are based on that, that is called great aspiration. If it's based on what's good for you, that's picking and choosing. So we are always making decisions in our lives. Avoiding picking and choosing. The great way is not difficult. Just don't pick and choose, said the third patriarch. What does that mean? I just accept everything? Or I can't, make any decisions? No. What are your decisions based on? Are they based on a small sense of self, or are they based on big mind? Are they based on what's good just for me, or on the aspirations I have for all sentient beings, including myself? So, that's kind of like, where's the question coming from? Is it coming from beginner's mind or expert's mind? The decision, the picking and choosing, the choice you're making, okay? Is it coming, and I'm not talking about trivial choices like, am I going to choose this salad or that salad? Oh, come on, you can like that one and not like that one. That's not the picking and choosing, right? Picking and choosing is the judgments that we're always making, okay, related to ourselves, others, and the world. Is that coming from aspiration, or is it coming from a sense of me knowing best? Okay? Drop yourself and then make your choice. Yeah? How do we drop ourselves? Well, this is what the practice is about. And I want to go into some of the techniques more to help us, because otherwise it's just kind of too general. The first technique we went into was the mindfulness of breathing that the Buddha taught very clearly. But that was just one stage of 4 levels of mindfulness, which are called the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So when the Buddha taught mindfulness in the practice of meditation, he actually really went through 4 different aspects. And those aspects each involve a lot of different techniques we can use. And it's all about letting go of self-cherishing and opening to the great intention and the aspiration of, in Mahayana we say, saving all sentient beings. We really mean just, being free from suffering and the cycle of samsara, and being able to fully realize the greatness of this mind and this life here and now. So, increase happiness, decrease suffering. Keep it clear, the intention, and then when you're making your choices, it's easier to have something to refer to. If it's like, what should I be doing? Keep the intention front and center, okay? Have it on your door when you go out in the day, May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. That is what I'm going to devote my life to. And the choices I make, I want to conform to that aspiration. And now let's see how we can make those choices. Okay. All this mindfulness is noticing what's going on inside of us and outside of us so that we don't get lost in the dream. We don't get lost in the dream of my independent self that exists independently from all the phenomena I am aware of. Mindfulness wakes me up. We say to be awakened, to be awakened, to wake up. Wake up from what? The dream of myself. The dream of myself that exists independently, like some sort of floating, I don't know what, like ghost, personality, independent of my experience. You come back to your experience, where's the self? Okay, it's simply these beliefs I'm holding on to. A lot of baggage, okay? How do you let go of the baggage? Come back to the immediacy of your experience. And the more you're able to be fully aware of that, the less interesting this kind of dream is. You don't need the dream, because the reality is enough. And that's why I say, if you're bored, pay closer attention. You won't be running away to your dreams, because you won't need it. There's enough to see here and now. And that's what mindfulness brings us back to wake up to this. You don't need more. You don't need more. Mindfulness of breathing. Okay, mindfulness of breath. I have the discourse, the sutra here. I'm just going to mention a couple of quotes that he gives us. It's like a 4-page sutra. It goes through the different 4 foundations of mindfulness. You should read it at some point. Thich Nhat Hanh has a very good translation of it. I'm going to refer to it a little bit. Okay? The first mindfulness, though, the 4 mindfulness, what are they? There's mindfulness of the body, okay? There's mindfulness of feelings, Vedana. There's mindfulness of mind, and there's mindfulness of sort of mental formations, what we talked about in terms of fabrications, in terms of creating stuff. I'll go over those. But what we talked about in the sutra we read with the mindfulness of breathing is just, it's our kind of baseline, but it's just one practice of this very rich, very dynamic approach called mindfulness. And the reason we need to expand it is because you can't always maintain this sort of mindfulness of breath when you're, doing all sorts of stuff. And there's a lot more to be aware of other than just breath. And we can bring in that same liberating mindfulness into a lot of things. So the technique really then can cover much more of what it means to be alive, more than just the breathing. Okay? And that's why we start with the breath as a sort of our foundation. Okay? You got to have a foundation to the building, but you got to build up from that building. So we have to have a firm foundation, and that is your breathing mindfulness. Now we're going to start to build up from it. But wait a second. We started the breathing, that's good. Where else does it go to? All right? So I'll just read a couple of sentences, and then I'll expand from them. So the Buddha repeats about breathing mindfulness in this sutra, the Satipatthana Sutra, which is the mindfulness of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my whole body. Okay? Before that, he breathes in, aware that he is breathing in. He breathes out, he's aware he's breathing out. So we start with the breath, and then we go to the body. Breathing in, I'm aware of the whole body. Breathing out, I'm aware of the whole body. Okay? All right. We can experience that. And then he goes on to say, when a practitioner walks, he is aware of I'm walking. When he is standing, he is aware I'm standing. When he is sitting, he is aware I'm sitting. When he's lying down, he is aware I'm lying down. In whatever position his body happens to be in, he is aware of the position of that body. Okay? So we have right here, there is the mindfulness of breath. Okay? We got that. It's hard enough. There's the 4 positions of the body: sitting, standing, lying down, okay, and walking. Those 4 positions. But it goes beyond that when mindfulness of body. He goes on to say, when he eats or drinks, chews or savors the food, he applies full awareness to all of this. Okay? When passing excrement or urinating, he applies full awareness to this. When he walks, stands, lies down, sits, sleeps, or wakes up, speaks, or is silent, he shines his awareness on all of this. Further, the practitioner meditates on her own very body from the soles of the feet upward, and then from the hair on top of the head downward. He goes over all the skin and everything. So what's going on here? We're starting to see that the awareness and the practice of mindfulness is being applied to a lot, or shall I say, everything which involves the body. Everything that involves the body becomes a practice of mindfulness. What we're trying to do here is to create continuity to the rest of our lives, so that it's not just about, I'm sitting and breathing, mindful, mindful, mindful. Got to go to the washroom. Okay, pause, press pause. No, this is really global here, right? Can we really maintain continuity? It won't have perhaps the same intensity, because you got to deal with stuff like opening the door and, sitting down, all this sort of stuff, washing your hands. There's other activities to do, but it's all included. What does, as someone asked Suzuki Roshi, what does a Zen student do in her spare time? And he was like, what? I don't understand the question. It's not just a Zen approach. We read about what the Buddha is saying here in terms of mindfulness of body, and we see that it really includes every single activity. Going to the washroom, speaking, being silent. Okay, equal practice, breath. He's not saying one is higher than the other, right? We're just trying to explore and expand what it means to be present and mindful and aware. And remember that mindfulness is based on what? Before he gave this talk, he specified what the mindfulness is, what's standing behind the mindfulness in terms of intention. He called it clear comprehension. What is a clear comprehension? Clear comprehension is right understanding of what mindfulness is based on. Why are you doing mindfulness? So that's why he specified, before he went into this, of clear comprehension. Clear comprehension was based on 4 things. Number 1 is understanding your purpose. Why are you doing this practice anyway? Like, why? Okay, end suffering, increase happiness. That's why. Okay? You want to be liberated from the prison of your own mind. Okay? That's what we're doing with mindfulness. Why? You should know. It's big. Okay? It's about liberation. So first we have to understand, why am I doing this? It's not just nice. Okay? It's not just calming and relaxing. It's to end suffering completely. That's why. Okay? That's clear comprehension of purpose. He also said you should understand suitability. Suitability is upaya, skillful. Is this mindfulness now, is this activity suitable? Is it suitable? Okay, am I doing the right thing at the right time? That's also a question we ask during the day in our activities. Is this the right time for doing this? Am I having a coffee break when I should be sitting in the hall? Is this the right time for this? Okay, suitability. Is it suitable? That's mindful too. That's part of the mindfulness. That's part of the clear comprehension, he said. So, there's purpose. There is suitability, upaya. Is this the right thing at the right time? There's what he said, meditation. Can I include this in my practice? Like, can this be part of my awakened practice? Or, am I kidding myself? Like, I'm going with friends to a bar. Can this really be part of my enlightened practice? Maybe it can be. Maybe it can be. But be sincere. Okay, be sincere. That's what he means by meditation in the clear comprehension. Am I like kidding myself saying, yeah, I can be mindful here, mindfully drunk? Come on. Like, clear comprehension. Okay, so again, before we even engage in our meditation, meaning our mindfulness life, we're asking, why am I doing it? Okay. Is this activity right now suitable to this time? Am I meditating when actually I should be at work right now? Or when I should be in the kitchen? Am I meditating? Is it suitable? Sometimes meditation is actually not suitable. In fact, a lot of the time. Right? I don't mean mindfulness. I mean formal sitting meditation. Okay? And then your mindfulness has to shift to another activity that he just specified all of these bodily activities, okay, are techniques of mindful awareness. Okay? Can I bring it into my meditation practice? Connected to suitability. And finally, does it help me? Am I able to understand reality through this practice? And what does he mean by reality? The Buddha said, by understanding reality, you understand anicca, anatta, and dukkha. You understand that it's impermanent. You understand, okay, that there's non-self, and that there's a lot of dissatisfaction. So when you understand the truth of suffering as a noble truth, you understand also the truth of impermanence and the truth of non-self in your activities, then it has become an enlightened practice. And it doesn't matter whether you're shoveling snow, or whether you are sweeping leaves, or whether you are typing, at work, or whether you are sitting in a meditation hall. Without that, you could be doing anything. Okay, you could be doing anything. So this is why he is very clear about what he calls clear understanding. Right? If you have doubts about your practice, you need to clarify why you're doing what you're doing. Okay? The mindfulness of body includes a few things. We just went over some of the basics, but there's other stuff that goes on. He talked about bodily activities, okay. He also went through the different parts. In the sutra, they go over the 32 different parts of the body, meaning being aware of what? He went over skin, teeth, hair, nails, muscles, blood, tendons, bones, all this stuff he went through that you're being mindful of. Wow, that's crazy. But actually it's not. I mean, this is your body. This is your house. You should know it. Okay? You should know it. Usually we have a lot of hang-ups about our bodies. Most people do. Okay? It's part of being in a culture where we're so, conditioned about certain appearances. So the mindfulness of body parts is a way of looking without judgment at the very body. That causes us often a lot of stress. And as you age, you'll notice that the mindfulness of body parts also is interesting. This is a practice for the rest of our lives, okay? I mean, honestly, this will happen again and again. Got a toothache? Wow. How'd that happen? Anicca. Okay? Anicca. I got a cavity? I haven't had a cavity for 10 years. Why did I get a cavity now? Right? Am I using that experience and that pain in order to awaken to the truth of impermanence through my own body of aging? Or am I just saying, why me? Like, why? Okay? Everything can be part of our awakening if we so choose. And that is simply in the area of mindfulness of body alone. Okay? He talks about being mindful in the body of the four elements, which are, the element of earth, air, water, and fire. It's interesting to notice that because it's a way of connecting to the natural world as it forms and, coalesces in our own bodies. You're breathing air, you're connected to air. You drink water, you are connected to water. You're made 60, 70% of water. Okay? There's heat, right? You're generating heat, 36 degrees all the time. That's pretty warm, actually. And earth, go without minerals for a little while and you'll see what happens. Okay? The elements are part of us. It's interesting to observe that, and then it's a way of connecting to the greater world that we're not separate from. We are a part of these elements. The next part of, again, this is all from the sutra of just mindfulness of body. So it goes way beyond just what we thought of as breath. Breath is the base, and then there's a lot to be aware of just having a body. Finally, the last meditation that he gives, only in terms of body, is he goes through 9 different contemplations or observations at the cemetery. Okay, cemetery. That's right. Now the cemeteries back then used to be like open. They didn't cover them, right? They were open. So they would go, and all these 9 different contemplations were 9 different stages of decay, right? From just dead to bones and everything in between. It's pretty gruesome. The description is gruesome and interesting, okay? Especially since we went over the 36 body parts. He gave us a description of guided meditation of the different body parts. And now you see those same body parts on a corpse. Like, wow. So you first familiarize yourself with your own body, and then you see it in a decaying body. And of course, the intention of that is to identify personally with that reality. The reality of not just impermanence in general, okay? There's no general impermanence, right? There's your body aging and gonna die, okay? That impermanence is the purpose of going and visiting a cemetery. Now, we don't experience that. But somebody just told me she was at her grandmother's death, her bedside, when she died, like a month ago. And I thought, what a privilege. What a privilege that is, okay? Because how many of us, have had that experience of being with a dead body? I wanted to say a live dead body. I mean a real dead body. How many of us have had that, and not just like a cat that's run over on the street? I mean, like a person that maybe you knew and loved. Maybe some of you had, okay? But we've sanitized and we have hidden death from our lives in such a way that it means that we don't really know how to relate to it personally as the nature of my own body. And so that mindfulness of body, then the last stage that the Buddha teaches is mindfulness of death. And not the death of like some stranger, but like my own, okay? And to see that just as he, him, or her, so too, so too me. Go figure. The next level of mindfulness that the Buddha teaches in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and actually I'm just going to talk about this one, because I think we already have enough. And the whole point of these 4 foundations of mindfulness is to say they are foundations, okay, in order to awaken from this dream of ourself as a sort of a separate self, okay, an individual that is really unique. Now, you are unique, and you are important, but you're not separate. And when we see a corpse, the first thing we can do is we can realize how connected we are, okay? Why do you feel revulsion and fear when you are exposed to death? Where does the fear come from? It comes from knowing deeply in your heart that that's also you, okay? It's the fear of our own death. And so when we experience that, and that revulsion whenever you see death, like wherever you see it, it's like, ooh, if it's a crow, yuck. Why is that? Why do we have this strong aversion, to anything dead? Instead of like, contemplate, interesting. That aversion is the fear of our own death. It really is. It's just that bell reminding us, for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, right? Do not ask for whom the bell tolls, right? So anytime we see death, we know that that's our own death, okay? Anytime you're exposed to mortality and change in life, it's your change. It's your mortality. Okay? That's a gift that the world gives us. That's a liberating awareness. We should not shy away from it. Okay? They intentionally went out to the cemetery. Now, I'm not saying you can do that, because even if you go, what are you going to see? There's nothing to see here. You can go to the Ganges and, sit by the burning ghats. But, come on, save yourself the plane ticket. Just take your mindful practice seriously and understand that death doesn't happen just in a cemetery. It's happening moment by moment in your life. Okay? Today is gone. That's a small death. The meditation you were doing this morning, the dinner you had, okay, the conversation that was nice, the sunrise, the sunset, okay? When you were 22, right? All these, keep coming back here. All these small deaths, all these small deaths, okay, add up. And they are a training for us. And this is why the Buddha sends us out to the cemetery. Don't go to the cemetery of someone else. Go to the cemetery of your own life and look across that cemetery. Experience the fear. Experience the aversion. Open to that. Be mindful and be aware of what it brings up. Don't be afraid of fear. The second foundation of mindfulness is what's called a Vandana, mindfulness of feeling. Mindfulness of feeling. And what does the Buddha say here? Okay, let's say it real clearly. All right. At the cemetery, by the way, the Buddha says, this body of mine, what you say to yourself, this body of mine is the same nature. You'll end up in the same way. There's no way to avoid that state. Okay? Young and healthy now. Enjoy. All right? Appreciate it. You know that saying? Youth is wasted on the young. And so is old age. Wasted on the old. Life is wasted on the living. Ask the dead. They will tell you if they could. Let me respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Strive to awaken. Awaken. Do not waste your time. That's what the dead would say. The foundation of mindfulness for feeling is simply when the Buddha says, whenever the practitioner has a pleasant feeling, she is aware, I'm experiencing a pleasant feeling. The practitioner practices like this for all the feelings, whether they are pleasant, painful, or neutral, observing them when they belong to the body and when they belong to the mind. Okay? She remains established in observation, free, not caught in any worldly consideration. Right? That is mindfulness of feeling. Pretty interesting, actually. Pretty interesting and pretty liberating. Mindfulness of feeling. When you have a feeling, what do you immediately do? Well, most of the time, if you're not involved in mindful practice, okay, you judge it and judge yourself by it. Right? Like, I'm sad, I shouldn't be sad, something's wrong with me. Or I'm happy, hey, I'm doing great, I must have done something well. Right? So it's like a seesaw. Good, bad. But not just that the feeling is good or bad, but I'm good or bad because I'm having this feeling. Okay? Success and failure. Right? Sense of self based on these feelings. Now, he said, she observes this without any worldly consideration. Okay? The worldly consideration is, what am I getting out of this? What does this say about me? Okay? The worldly consideration is a sense of self. That's what it is. So can I observe my feelings without creating the story? Can I look at the feeling without the story? just the feeling. So you see the feeling for what it is. Feeling is a feeling, okay? Pleasant, unpleasant, happy, sad, right? Whatever it is. Anxious, calm, angry, patient. All these feelings. Can I look at the feelings as feelings and not as representations of me? Can I do that? Yes, you can. Okay? Yes, you can. Because as soon as the story starts happening, that's when you are mindful. That's when you say, oh, unskillful. Remember the clear comprehension, right? Is this skillful or is it unskillful? If I'm starting to analyze the feeling, is that skillful or unskillful? Is it increasing happiness or increasing suffering? And if you see that it's making me stressed because I'm getting an unhappy sense of self out of this analysis, and blame and judgment and all that, unskillful, right? The basic litmus test is it increasing happiness or is it increasing suffering? For whom? Me. Okay? Not Daniel. You. Whoever is experiencing it, right? Is it increasing or decreasing suffering? Increasing or decreasing happiness? Look at your reactions, your judgments, your thoughts through that lens. And it becomes a lot clearer whether it is skillful and useful for me to keep on this. Confusion comes when we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. But if you know why you're doing what you're doing, which is to decrease suffering, to be liberated from a small sense of self, and to increase happiness for yourself and all others, okay? You have a good measure. Use it. Now, mindfulness, I just want to say one more thing about mindfulness of feeling. Okay? The reason the Buddha emphasizes mindfulness of feeling, because there's something called these 12 chains of dependent co-origination, which is where we get stuck. It's sort of like reactions that happen very quickly in our experience that all of a sudden we are attached and suffering. Okay, and it happens so quickly. There's sort of an experience, then all of a sudden all these thoughts around it, and it happens almost immediately. What's with the candles? Purring. See, I'm distracted, right? I'm just distracted. You can stay there. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to talk with a cat behind you. There's nothing I can... Yeah. Yeah. At least it's a white cat, not a black cat. Could have been worse, eh? The connection in these 12 steps, I'm not going to go into them at all, but the main connection is the weak point of the chain, where feeling leads to craving, leads to desire. That's in this chain of causation. What happens is that there's feeling, bandhana, and then craving, tanha. In the Pali, that's what happens, and that's the way the Buddha taught, how we get in trouble. And the place where we get stuck is when there's feeling, and I don't just stay with the feeling, but the feeling immediately becomes part of my sense of self, which then creates desire, or craving, or aversion. Okay? So you have a feeling: sadness, anxiety, happiness, joy, just any feeling. Choose a feeling. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Now, what happens? Are you able to stay with that feeling? Or does it immediately reinforce a sense of self, either that you want, or a sense of self that you don't want? Okay? If you can be mindful of just the feeling, you've stopped that process of rebirth, we say. Rebirth into myself again. I'm reinforcing my sense of self. Okay, let's say I feel sadness. Can I be with the sadness? Or immediately, do I have the reaction, I want the sadness to go away? That's desire. Desire not to have, aversion, okay? Do I feel joy and calm? And then my reaction is, my relation to that is, I hope you stay, I'm a good meditator. Come on, all right? You see there's desire and aversion. That's why he emphasized mindfulness of feeling. Mindfulness of body can help liberate you from avoiding change. Okay? Because as soon as you start to notice what's going on in your body, you're going to notice change. You're going to notice suffering. And you're going to notice, who am I? That's non-self. Okay? Mindfulness of body will help you realize reality. Reality of non-self, of change, and of dukkha. Okay? That's what the body mindfulness is there for. What is mindfulness of feelings there for? Why did he teach that? In order to break the connection between our feelings and our desires, so that we can just stay with the feeling and not immediately start going into, ooh, I wish it was otherwise, or I hope you'll stay. Okay? Stay with the feeling. It's hard to stay with our experience, but that's what this practice is. It's really to stay here, to be here. It takes courage. It takes steadfastness. It takes perseverance, and intense perseverance, he said in the other sutra. That intense perseverance is when things get difficult, can you stay put? And when things get pleasant, can you not be attached? Okay? That is the challenge of this mindfulness. To be here in a way that is free. In that way, if we can do that, if we can fully practice this, and I've only gone through 2 of them, but that's enough for us. Then we look around and we start to find that everything is our teacher. You know, I'm your teacher for a few minutes, but when you leave the hall, who and what, are your teacher? Okay? Is it walking outside? Is it the stars? Is it the moon? Is it the path you're on? Are it the stones that you stubbed your foot on? Is it the person who's walking in front of you? What is this awakening in your mind? All of your experiences in your body and in your feelings. If you can become aware of them, and you see what they bring up, and you see how they offer the choice. Okay? Do I need to react according to habit, or can I be with this? Can I be with this? Can I be with the pain and the pleasure? Okay? Can I open to this fully? That's what our practice is challenging us to. Right? And then you'll have more wisdom as to what decisions to make and what changes you can affect. But if you jump to the decisions and changes before the mindfulness, it'll be based on your sense of self, which is limited. If you make your decisions based on your mindfulness, however, you'll have a much wider view. And it may be more skillful.